Focaccia doesn't need to take ages. I mean, let's clarify, longer is clearly better, but time is money, and this is emergency focaccia, which is focaccia for people with a limited time budget. It's incredibly simple. You'll need about 300 milliliters of water mixed in with about a tablespoon of salt and sugar, and then 7-ish grams of active dried yeast. You're going to let it proof so you're not wasting your time, and then once it's proven, you're going to add 400 grams of strong flour and bring it all together in a bit of a shaggy mess. Coat it in oil and then let it hydrate for about 10 minutes. Then oil up the ball and let it rest for 10 minutes. Stretch, fold, ball, rest. Stretch, fold, ball, rest. You're going to do that about 3 or 4 times. Cover it and leave it at room temperature until it's roughly doubled in size, and then put it in the fridge until it grows another 15%, which is about an hour. Now while you're doing that, you're going to prepare your toppings. I'm choosing onions, oil poached garlic and poppy seeds. Slice the onion into rings and peel the garlic, and then slice each clove in half lengthways, and then cover it in a light oil or a neutral oil and give it a bit of a fry. And then once it starts to caramelize, turn off the heat and allow it to cool. The garlic will continue to caramelize and soften. After an hour, bring the dough out of the fridge and pour it onto a paper-lined tray with a little bit of oil on top. Fold and stretch couple of times, and then allow it to rise at room temperature one more time. It'll almost double in size as well. Then you're going to dimple the dough with well-oiled fingers and then leave it for about another half an hour, and then preheat the oven to 210 degrees Celsius. The dough should be looking puffy and fluffy before it goes in, and it should be about 3 to 4 centimeters thick. Then put it into the middle of the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, and it should come out crispy and tanned and well aerated in the middle, but not like spaciously aerated like you see with a lot of focaccias, but just consistently so. So this here marks the main difference between what I call a long focaccia and a short focaccia: the texture. Long focaccia allows for more elasticity in the dough, generating a stronger dough and a more open crumb, which is a bit of a chewier texture. The shortened version has less chew and more of a closed crumb, but as far as getting a focaccia done goes, it does the trick. The other difference is in flavour. The longer version has a deeper, more fermented flavour, but the active dried yeast version, the short version, is not so remarkably different that I feel like I'm missing out on something, and at some point the toppings just take over. So I'm house sitting at the moment, lounging outside, and the backyard are basically entirely edible, well, except for the grass. They've got nasturtium, which is a nice sort of weed-like plant, but the leaves and the flowers have a peppery sweet pop. So I'm using those. I've got some parsley for freshness, dandelions for their combo of sort of sweet floral earthiness, and a bit of purple broccoli, which is a bit of a treat. Some lemon and some eggs from these fine chooks here. And from there, it really is quite simple. I beat an egg and then I flour and egg the dandelions and then fry them gently in salted butter, which my brother-in-law calls
Racist food.
Then I set them aside and I roughly chop the head of the broccoli and then finely chop the stem. And then into the butter to fry on a medium-high temperature, finishing with a squeeze of lemon. And then I get plating it all up. And the result is a peppery, earthy, sour, and sweet note. The only thing I'd add extra would be some nuts. There were some macadamias in the cupboard, but I am not consistently in the business of eating the nut equivalent of pure gold. The garden has so much to offer if you just know what to look for. The person I'm house sitting for, Jean-Charles, has been fairly proactive in getting the garden in a fairly, wild state, but in a way that sort of gives a lot. He's planted all sorts of things, wild strawberries, the nasturtium, depending on how you say it. We've got a lot of broccoli, some silver beets, spinach, just everything is growing and everything is giving. And I think that's the way a garden should be. It can look pretty, but if it's pretty and edible as well, that's fantastic. And then, pair it up with some delicious focaccia, and you're away laughing. You've got food for days.